Good morning, One Life. What a great day to be part of the One Life family. Glad everybody could take a few minutes to join us this morning. Obviously we're here to be plugged in, and I'm glad that you're being plugged in to the happenings at One Life with this short conference call that we do every Monday morning. Today's devotion will be fairly short so that our featured speaker will have plenty of time to share with us. I'd planned on several occasions to write a devotion. However, life, Christmas parties with work and my church, my wife and kids, and all their wants had delayed my efforts. After a long weekend of spending time with my wife doing honeydews and going to church, hunting with my oldest son, letting my youngest son talk me into going to Cracker Barrel where he can enjoy his favorite lunch, which is dumplings, visiting with my parents and my in-laws, last night I realized what I should share about: family. I hope you guys don't get tired of me talking about my family. My only blog post ever was about my family. I share many pictures and thoughts on my personal social media pages about my family. Matter of fact, my Facebook page is consumed with family. Scotty Elliott introduced today's conference call guest speaker, Keith Little, who spoke at our academy last week by pointing out what a family man he is. And especially this time of year, we gather around family. Proverbs 22:6 says, and this comes from me being a father of two sons, it's where the thought came from. But Proverbs 22:6 says, train up a child in a way he should go. Even when he is old, he will not depart from it. It's very important for me to spend quality time with my earthly family. I hope that the example that I set is one that will show morals, values, and most importantly, love. However, my family, and I hope yours, extends well beyond those we call grandparents, moms and dads, husbands and wives, brothers and sisters, and children. We have a family of people around us that love us and care deeply for our well-being, whether it's our church family, friends, or those you spend time with on a regular basis. Above all, God loves us enough to send His only Son to this earth in birth, ministry, and death as a gift for our salvation. Did you hear that? A gift. That is why I hold out my hands like an open book when I receive communion. Jesus' body was broken and His blood was shed for our sins so that we can live eternally in heaven with our Father if we only accept it. So during this time of Christmas season, as we spend our time with our families, remember all the gifts that we have, not those wrapped underneath that decorated tree, but the gift of family, love, and most importantly, salvation. If you'll allow me for a short prayer. Most gracious and loving Heavenly Father, we thank You for everything that You do for us, and we thank You for all the many gifts that You bestowed upon us. We thank You for Your Son, Jesus Christ, as He entered this world, and we celebrate that this season with an ultimate plan of creating a spot for us in heaven with You. We love You, and we want to be just more like You. In Your name we pray. Amen. Just a few marketing highlights as we move into the business portion of our call. We'll be announcing the Christmas Cash Contest winners tomorrow, and after all the business has been entered. Production update real quickly. Let me get my hands on that. This is for week 12-1 through 12-5. We wrote $459,960.72 as One Life. Our top 10 producers for that particular week: number 1, KT Tyler with $11,240 of submitted annual premium. Jason Newquist with $9,330. Chris Reed, $8,399. Nigel Johnson, $8,231. Vicki Bowen at number 5 with $7,761. Roland Labriola with $7,590. Timothy McCabe, $7,407. Glenn Smith, $7,373. Javier Rodriguez, $7,022. Kirsten Goodman, $6,243. And that was rounding out the top 10 with Kirsten Goodman there. Real quickly, want to make mention that Derek Moore's Motivational Monday video. Have not seen it up yet, but it should be up shortly. Do make sure to follow us on all of our social media outlets through text message communication by texting OLA to the number 51660. obviously these conference calls, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and LinkedIn. Derek Moore has tons of social media efforts and a website to boot where you can follow, along with a lot of good leadership information. You can subscribe to his podcast by going to derekmoore.buzzsprout. That's BUZZSPROUT.com. To key in there and follow his podcast series, and then he has all the different social media outlets to go there as well. The onelife.geigershops.com store, you can buy your One Life merchandise and get all geared up, long sleeve, short sleeve, men's, women's, all different colors, so you can have your One Life gear there. So go shopping at the onelife.geigershops.com store and get you some One Life gear. Our featured speaker today is Keith Little. Keith is a friend of the One Life family. He is a partner and owner with Life Management Group in Auburn, Alabama, where he resides with his wife and 3 children. Keith has been involved in the insurance business for 15 years and has won multiple awards, including 19 carrier incentive trips in his tenure. Did have the fantastic opportunity to hear Keith speak last Tuesday night when he addressed our Academy attendees after our dinner, and it was a phenomenal speech, very humbling. Tell he's a very humble gentleman, and just pleased and proud to be around this guy. So without further ado, I'm looking forward to Keith joining us for the call this morning. Keith, are you with us?
I am, David. I'm here.
Fantastic, Keith. Thank you so much for joining us, and I'm going to turn the platform over to you.
Okay, thank you, David. I appreciate the kind words, and once again, I want to thank the One Life family for allowing me the opportunity to talk with you this morning, and hopefully we can all walk away from this morning with something that's just going to make us better. I believe in a sales process, and having that said, I use a 9-step sales process, and I tell everybody that my 9-step sales process is just simply a way, and it's not actually the way to do it, but I do encourage everyone to have a process. So before I really get started about talking about the importance of having a process, I want to kind of run through that process. I know we have limited time, but let's run through that process real quick. Number 1, I use a warm-up. My warm-up is 5 to 7 minutes, and typically no longer than that and no shorter than that. I just basically want to get warmed up to my potential client and ask them some questions and get them involved and make them feel comfortable with what's going to take place. Number 2 is a transition statement. The transition statement helps me get from my warm-up into the business conversation with my potential client. Number 3 is a prescription check. I start into the prescription check to make sure that I understand all the medications that my potential customer is taking, and this will kind of give me a good read on what their health is. Number 4, I will read them the health questions, and I do read them the health questions word for word. So a lot of times what I'll do is I'll just pick out a carrier, and I will read their health questions to my client word for word. And this will give me a good idea after I've checked the prescription drugs and read the health questions. This will give me a great idea as to what product and plan that my client is going to qualify for. Because I believe that without knowing if they qualify or what they're going to qualify for, there's really no point in moving forward in the process. Number 5, I do an insurance review. Now, the reason why I do an insurance review is because, number 1, I want to see what my client already has, and number 2, I want to make sure that they understand what they have and how that coverage is going to take care of their future financial needs. So this will just be another piece of the puzzle to help you put the sale together. Number 6 is a needs analysis. I actually use a needs analysis worksheet. Now, I've oftentimes told everybody it doesn't really matter how you do a needs analysis. You could use dignity planning. That's a form of a needs analysis, or you could use a type of worksheet that kind of helps you calculate what the final expenses are going to cost. Or you may do a verbal needs analysis. Nevertheless, you need to do a needs analysis because this will actually tell you how much coverage your client will need, and it will also show them the value of the reason why they're taking out the coverage. This promotes good persistency and good taking ratios, as well as when your customer understands the value of what they're doing. And doing a proper needs analysis will give them a track to run on and understanding the value of what they're doing for their family. Number 7 is the closing. closing, you use a pitch pad or a three-choice, what I think One Life calls it a tri-close pad, where you give them the three choices. This is your closing process. Throughout your closing process, of course, if you don't close the deal, you're not going to walk away from the situation with a sale, and they're not going to walk away from the situation with a plan of coverage. So closing is very important, and hopefully along the way you've built enough value to be able to close the sale and offer your client a high level of coverage so they can take care of their family in the future. Number 8, very important, is the takeaway. The takeaway will definitely help you improve your persistency and taking ratios, and that's just simply making sure that your client is comfortable with their monthly premiums and what they're doing. So takeaway is very important. And number 9 is just simply the cool down. The number 9 is actually one of my favorite parts because at this point in time, I know I've made a sale. I know I've done really good for my client, and I actually get to talk about myself, and I do like to talk about my family. So number 9 is the last step, and that just gives you an opportunity to share with the client. And most of the time it's 5 to 7 minutes, and then you want to close that out. So from front to back, this process may sound like it takes a lot of time, but it only takes about 45 minutes from front to back. This will also allow you to maximize your opportunity throughout the day, and also being able to get in front of as many people as possible. That's the reason why a sales process is very important. And the 9-step sales process, to me, helps me manage my time wisely, and it helps me to get to more people throughout the day. Because there's absolutely no way you can get to 6 to 8 people a day if you don't use a process that works for you. So first and foremost, the process will help you manage your time better. I found this a long time ago to really get me up and going when I knew exactly what I was going to do. It made that process of the sale go a whole lot smoother, and I could get more appointments back to back. So I could go through my process, and it made sense, and it built the value that I needed to build to be able to create the sale. So number 1, it just helps you manage your time better. Number 2, I oftentimes found out when I was struggling a little bit that if I had some type of process that I go by and that I use, that I could always refer back to that 9-step sales process. And I could diagnose my problem through looking at 1 through 9 and saying, hey, which one of these parts am I struggling with? Which one of these parts am I weak at? So I could really zero in on that and focus on which part of the sale that I was kind of a little bit weak at. So I could strengthen that part that I was weak, and I could keep the part that I was strong at. And the reason why that would be important is a lot of times as salespeople, we may struggle. So mechanically, we kind of go back and we start fixing things that we don't really need to fix. Through having a sales process, you can really look internally and find out where you're going wrong and fix the parts that need to be fixed versus fixing everything, because everything doesn't need to be fixed. You leave your strengths alone and you strengthen your weaknesses. So number 2, I would say the important part about having a process is just being able to create yourself and make yourself even better, and change your whole dynamics so you can manage yourself. Number 3, if you're a manager and you have a group or you intend on building a group, having a sales process that not only that you use but that you teach will help you work with your agent better. So a lot of times it will not require you to get back in the car with that agent. You can simply help them fix whatever their problem is throughout the sales process by simply listening to them on the phone or having a face-to-face meeting, because you can determine which part of the sales process maybe they're lacking at. So you can help them find that, and through going through that process with them, they can identify themselves that, hey, I'm struggling a little bit on number 6, which is the needs analysis. I need to strengthen the value of myself. Because Zig Ziglar said, once the value of the sale is 1 penny more than the price, that actually creates this sale. That's a good deal for both parties. So number 6, the needs analysis, is where a lot of people will struggle, and that's the value building part of the sale. But there would be no point to strengthen somebody's warm-up or transition or even the way they qualify a customer or do their insurance review if all those parts were strong. If the only part that we needed to really work on is the value building process, part of the process, then we work on that part, and we strengthen that part. And that's really, David, that's the that's really the number 3 or 4 things that make process to me so important, and I always relate it to sports because I believe a good championship team is not a real good championship team, or they don't win many games if they don't have a proven process that they use. Every team, every winning team has a playbook, and they have a playbook that works, and they have a playbook that their players actually go by, and there's a reason why the coach says, hey, you run the route this way, or you do hit and run this way, or you do it that way, and that's just all part of the process. So I believe in order to be a winning team and be a winning agency at One Life or any other agency in America, such as Life Management Group, I believe that we have to have a proven process that we live and die by each and every day, and this is just going to make us stronger. It's going to help us make more sales, and it's going to help us train people better and encourage people to get into the business more. And, David, I certainly appreciate you giving me the time today, so I'm going to turn the call back over to you, and hopefully we've all learned something today.
Well, fantastic, Keith. If you'll hold on just for a minute, we're going to unmute everyone's lines right now. Jonathan's going to unmute them. All right, you're unmuted. Well, you're muted, but by hitting *6, you can key in if you'd like to ask Keith a little question about his process, his 9-step process for sales. So if you have a question, just *6 and unmute yourself to ask.
Good morning, gentlemen. Adam Kane.
Hey, good morning, Adam. How are you?
Blessed.
Oh, I'm great. Oh, okay, my fault.
Adam Kane here.
With
a comment for Keith. Keith, I got so much out of being at the Academy, and for anybody who's on the call who has not made the commitment and attended the Academy, let me just say that you are only hurting yourself. Make that commitment. Be there in February. It is an unbelievable experience. The value that is delivered is just over the top. And Keith, to you, I just want to say that your 9-step process was at the top of my list for the best of the best that I took away from my attendance at the Academy. Thanks, everybody.
I appreciate that, Adam. That means a lot. Thank you.
Thank you, Adam, and thanks for pointing out the value add of the Academy itself. This is it is a fantastic opportunity, and half of the reason that we have it is a fantastic sales and product knowledge training and everything that goes along there. But the opportunity we have to build relationships with everybody that comes in to attend the Academy, get to know them outside of just what they're doing in business, but tell me about your family and your hobbies and that kind of stuff. It goes a long way. It means a lot to us. So we absolutely enjoyed. And got 2 people unmuted, and I think we'll start with Mr. Adam Schwartz. Are you unmuted right now?
Oh, yes. When I heard you say Adam, I apologize. Unfortunately, my name is really common. I was wondering, I was listening to what Keith was saying, and what I got instantly off the bat was the first part and the 9th part. If you're having a retention problem with your clients, there it is. There's the problem. And I've had that problem with my agents before, and I had a really hard time, narrowing down exactly how could I help them. And I thought that was really just perfect. That makes things so much easier on me. And I was wondering, another problem that I have with newer agents, and you're probably going to say the fact finder is where the answer is at, but say if an agent is showing face amounts that you don't know is the best choices for the client, what part in your sales process would you be able to, as a manager, would you be able to know, okay, if I could tell that they're not showing the right face amounts because of this?
Yeah, Adam, that's a good question, and I think number 6 is your answer. That's the needs analysis, because if they're doing a proper needs analysis, you're actually able to find out how much coverage this client actually needs today, 10 years from now, 25 years from now. So in doing that, you're actually putting your client on the right number, and so therefore you're able to give them a choice of 3 different numbers that actually make sense to their current needs. So number 6 would definitely be where you're going to find that out at.
Awesome. And I got another question just to follow that up. I don't know if you guys use the Dignity program, but we're trying to install dignity into our sales process. Would you say that would be a good number one?
Yeah, I would definitely think that dignity planning is an awesome needs analysis, and it's going to help you find out what the needs are, so you can get those numbers correct, and whatever you pitch out to your customer is going to make sense. So dignity planning is a type of needs analysis, and it's also a great service for the client. So if you can plug that in at number 6, that would be a great needs analysis for you.
Awesome. And I noticed what you do, which I want to start doing, is you'll do the application, you'll do the telephone process before you even show how much your program will cost and what your face amount's going to be. And I had this question asked to me, and I didn't have the numbers to back it up. Do you find that you have a very healthy placement percentage when you do it that way?
Well, first of all, I want to clarify something, Adam. I check the prescription drugs and I read the health questions to them, but I do not do a telephone interview until after I close the sale. So I do want to make sure everyone understands that. So through my prescription check, which is number 3, and asking the health questions, I'm just simply for myself seeing what type of program the client will qualify for. Now, what was the second part of the question?
Well, the way it sounded like to me, and I think you kind of cleared that up, is when you do a telephone interview, you get them approved, great, and then you show them a couple different options. And what if all of a sudden they say, I can't afford any of them? We still have to hand the application in, but it's going to be non-placed. So but I've never tried this before, so I don't know. So would you?
Yeah, let me make sure I clarify this. I do not do a telephone interview until after I've closed the sale.
Okay.
Tells me how much coverage they want. So the telephone interview would be the last part of the closing, and we only have limited time to go through the 9-step sales process. So hopefully as we go, we'll get more in depth in this and be able to give you a little bit more details as to what's taking place. But the telephone interview does not happen until after I've closed it.
Okay. And based on what I'm gathering, your warming up and your cooling down is a great way to keep retention. I'm assuming the cool down is also not only you're talking about yourself, but you're also buttoning up what you've done today. Do you have any key phrases or key things you say that gets the client thinking, what if Joe the plumber says, oh, that's too expensive, I can get you something better? Do you have anything in your closing where you kind of button up the sale and you make everyone feel good about it?
Well, Adam, I think what you're referring to there is my number 8, which is the takeaway. And when we do the takeaway on number 8, we actually are buttoning up that sale to make sure, hey, can you afford it? Are you satisfied with what we've been able to do for you today? And those type of things that are going to really make a difference in the long run.
Adam Schwartz, thanks for calling in with your questions. I believe we got Mr. Kevin McGill unmuted. Mr. McGill, you with us?
Yeah, I am. I was listening to the very good presentation, Keith. That's awesome information. You were talking about the takeaway, and that's something that I absolutely love doing as a takeaway because, as we've been conditioned from childhood to want the things that we can't have. And it just drives us. But the challenge that I've always come across, especially with recruiting and training new agents, is how to get people to understand how to do the takeaway with tact. Can you explain how you do that, not only in how you do it personally, but also how you train agents to be able to emulate your success while you're in front of them, but also, in addition to that, the psychology behind that?
Yeah, sure, Kevin. Appreciate your question. Number 8 is the takeaway, and there's 2 main points there for the takeaway. Number 1 is review why this is important, because at this point in time, we've spent a lot of time on building the value of what they're really going to be able to do for their family. So in the takeaway, after we've closed the deal, we really want to review why this is important. And so I would ask my client, do you feel like what you've done today is that important? Is that going to help your family? So I will kind of get confirmation back from them. That's number 1. And number 2 is just make sure it's affordable. And because, once you get good at this process, to your client, it's going to actually seem as if they're watching a movie. And sometimes that creates a good sales atmosphere to where everybody's going to say yes. And so you want to make sure that it is affordable and they've made the right choice as far as their budget is concerned. And that would be the main two things that I would train or teach anyone in the takeaway, and why that would be important, because going back to what I said earlier, your persistency and your take-in ratios are just going to improve if you review properly and make sure it's affordable.
Well, why do you think that's so important from a client standpoint? In their mind, why does that solidify your deal?
Well, number one, every buyer within the first 3 days are going to have buyer's remorse, and we all know what that is, because at some point in time we've all bought something, such as a vehicle or maybe a major purchase, anything over $500. So within that first 3 days, the thought process that goes through our head is that, should I have really done this? And so throughout that first 3-day period, when that buyer is having the buyer's remorse, they're going to think back. And if you've done a proper review why this is important, they're going to answer their question. Why did I do this? Should I have really done this? And then making sure it's affordable is the most important thing, because throughout that buyer's remorse period, they're going to calculate that. Can I really, truly afford this? And if you've done the proper job in that takeaway, you've answered those questions that are going to come up within those first 3 days, and that's why that's so important.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Kevin. Thank you, Keith. Is there anyone else unmuted with a question for Keith Little? Have anyone else unmuted? Well, Keith, we really appreciate you joining our call today. Thank you for the session. This call is recorded, and we'll have it on our playlist of our YouTube channel here probably before the day is out. Do we have someone unmuted?
Yes.
Okay.
This is Will Heyman out of Atlanta, Georgia, for Mr. Keith Little. Mr. Keith Little, I wanted you to comment on the fact that I've heard a lot of sales trainers talk about the importance of this. And I'd like for you to take a second or so and just go ahead and conversate on this. Tell us about how important it is to have enthusiasm throughout your presentation when you're talking to Mr. or Mrs. Jones.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Great question. Great comment, Will. I appreciate that. As we all know, if you create excitement, people tend to do the right things for themselves, and they tend to do it in a positive manner. So I really think, going back to number one, which is the warm-up, that you have to be enthusiastic throughout that period of time just to create that atmosphere that you're looking for. Because when people are in a better mood, they tend to make better decisions for their family, and being enthusiastic and being positive and all those kind of things are very important. And like I said, that we don't have enough time today to cover all the details, but hopefully in the future we can be able to get into some of those more detail-oriented things like that. But basically, if you have a 9-step sales process, guys and gals, do not depend on the process to make the sale for you. You do have to put that God-given personality along with it, be enthusiastic and positive. That's what makes it happen. Thank you, Will.
Great question, Will. Any last questions for Keith Little before we wrap our call? Ladies and gentlemen, I appreciate you being on the call. Thanks again, Keith. I really appreciate you taking time out of your busy day to jump on the call. We're going to go ahead and wrap it up, and everyone go confidently in the direction of your dreams. Have a great day, One Life, and see you next Monday.